When I've been on the other side of this, we've been on the other side of this, so we put our jurors in an impossible situation with these types of cases. So we're thankful for the effort, but you saw the emotion they had. You saw the pain that we placed them in this situation, and really it's uncalled for. And what I mean by that is our system is set up that when you indict a police officer with an expert at the grand jury level, and you start from that premise, of course you're going to get a charge. So I'm speaking in general now, you guys, and I hope you don't mind my soapbox, but the grand jury system has to change, our legislature has to change. To try to indict an officer on felony murder is unconscionable. And I understand reckless homicide, I understand other aspects, and if an officer purposefully does something, absolutely, then the charge with murder. But the way this process goes right now, we need our legislatures, we need our elected officials to step up. But on behalf of Connor and his family, they thank all the jurors for their service. They thank for putting the effort in and the time, and you saw their emotion as well. For the rest of his life, he has to deal with this, and he, trust me, you didn't get to hear from him because the government put his statement on, but he feels he took a life and on duty and realized another's life after the fact, and to walk around with that and that is a difficult situation. In terms of the other stuff, I was able to hear some of the civil attorneys. Look, they have a job to do. I get it, but what's happening is they're tainting potential jurors. They're tainting the jury pool in Franklin County. And again, we have to change the process for our change of venue stuff. We have to have a fair situation here. So again, we're very thankful for the service of the jurors, and it's an impossible situation that they're put in. We believe that they followed the law and they followed this. The bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is no matter what you say from any angle, a car was used towards a Blendon Township police officer, and he had to react, and so that's the society that we live in. And this isn't a racial case; it has nothing to do with any aspect of that. But that's the bottom line of the situation. It's just not that complicated in terms of this. So.
Were you concerned with some of the issues that were brought up in court? The body-worn camera video being played out and the family's emotional reaction during that, and at the end of rebuttal, some of the statements by the special prosecutor. Did you fear that was going to harm the jury in their decision-making?
Well, from a defense standpoint, you have to protect the record. And so in that aspect, those types of things, do I want to bring those to light? Do I want to put those out there? No. How am I going to tell a family that lost a loved one and a potential granddaughter of how they're supposed to feel in that? But unfortunately, we have to have some sort of decorum in the courtroom. We have to have those processes. So when I probably, in however many trials I've done, I've probably objected maybe 5 or 6 times in a closing. But again, there's certain points that, and what I'm speaking of is there's certain points in these cases that it's easy to cross the line if you're the prosecutor. It's easy to cross the line if you're a defense attorney because it's so nuanced and the case law is so difficult. But that's where our legislature has to step in. Our state legislature has to step in and come up with jury instructions that are vetted, that go through things. Every time in these cases, any judge that has one of these has to, in fact, create jury instructions. And they're case specific. But our legislature has to step in as well as our elected officials to prevent this type of situation. And I think you were going to say something, Katilyn. Okay.
You guys have spent a lot of time with Connor, and I assume his family as well. So in that moment when the judge was reading the verdict, you guys just spoke with them. What was it like for them?
It's a relief. I mean, they've lived this every single day for the last 2 years as well, and so they're relieved that justice was served.
From day one, Connor Grubb has 2 young children. Connor Grubb from day one said, why can't I testify at grand jury? Why can't I tell them what happened? Because he said, I don't understand why. And unfortunately, we told him, you're going to get indicted. Okay, and he couldn't comprehend that in his mind because of the type of person he is, because his entire life has been dedicated to serving his country in the Marines. He was deployed twice. He was deployed twice in the Marines. He has 2 little children. His wife is a part-time teacher. This is what they do, and that's what he did at Blendon Township. And so it's very difficult for him to sit in a chair when you have an expert like Seth Stoughton, who has never testified on behalf of a police officer, telling you that you shouldn't stand in front of a car, and that therefore you're guilty, and therefore you're going to prison for a life sentence with 15 years to the parole board.
But we knew the writing was on the wall, which is what the point was.
What did Officer Grubb say? Has he said anything about staying on as a police officer?
That part is personal right now. What he told us is thank you so much, and he started to cry, and so did his wife, and they have other things to say, but that's between them, and they're going to need some time on this.
Have they talked about his plans for the future now?
We haven't talked to them about that. It's
One day at a time.
yeah, it's one day at a time. If it's a not guilty verdict and your life goes on, you're always affected. Like we said in this case, everyone in that courtroom is affected from this, and it will impact them for the rest of their lives. But how do you talk about what you're going to do in the future when you might be going to prison for a life sentence with no chance of parole 15 years, or you're walking out the door? So, those types of things are difficult, and in time, I'm sure they will. But they wanted us to express their thanks to the community, to the support that they've gotten, and they understand the other side. They understand the frustration, the sorrow, and the pain that Ms. Young's family feels, and it's real. So.
Are you have security concerns at all? I mean, there are extra deputies outside the courtroom. I know there's been some comments here and there. Are you concerned at all that there's going to be issues related to Emily's family?
Let me answer that question. Because we're involved in these types of cases, and there's been issues in other cases, we're always trying to prepare for that. And that's where I think that the FOP and the support system, and officers who are retired officers here supporting them, that's the kind of security that they need and stuff like that. And your question, Bethany, I'd like to go to a different level. It's difficult nowadays in a courtroom when people have a right to protest. People have a right to get a permit and do their stuff. But when you're sitting right next to jurors who are waiting for a ride home, when you're all in other areas and stuff like that, again, it places everybody in a difficult situation, because both sides, all 3 sides, the judge, the prosecution, and the defense, they just want a fair trial. And so what happens is, because these are such emotional cases, and because the feelings run so deep, that people end up acting a certain way and doing a certain way sometimes that maybe they wouldn't do in a normal type case and stuff like that. So that's the hard part in these types of cases.
You guys
You've
will
already
be back
spoken
in
about
about
the need for change, but what do you think this verdict means for future cases that you guys are a part of involving officers?
I mean, I just really think it's case by case basis. So I don't think that this sends a message to any of the other cases or anything like that.